This seems like an okay place to— oh my god, what is going on here? Comrade, you've been accused of perpetuating civilization and therefore crimes against humanity by inventing the noose! How do you plead?
Not guilty.
You've spoken! Language also perpetuates civilization.
Oh no!
I hereby sentence you to death, you filthy civ scum, by hanging! Fuck this, I am outta here. Well, that was a bust. Look at all the support. Man, fudge this. I am coming back.
SO, where the hell are you when I need you?
Here I am. What's up, nigga?
I finally found it. The cringiest communist propaganda piece of all time. The holy grail of propaganda.
Tanner, we've been over this. Marxist propaganda exists on its own unique scale of terrible, and it's not possible to quantify it with human senses. Even if it was, however, the scale is so minute that it wouldn't matter because everyone's reaction to it is the same, regardless of what place that particular propaganda piece goes on the scale.
Come on, dude, just collab with me on this.
I just said that I don't care.
I'm reverting back to mutualism if you don't.
Oh my god, why would you do that to yourself? Mutualist property norms are like the worst parts of communism and a market system put together. Okay, fine.
Right, boys, I want this carrot field completely harvested by sundown or you're both out of a job.
Really? Come on, this is such low-hanging fruit. You were really gonna turn back to occupation property ethics if I didn't help you respond to this? For those of you who don't know, this is a video by Non-Compete, and Non-Compete is a Marxist kids channel LARPing as an anarchist, and his content is basically what you would get if you took the birds in the BS, thought slime, and put them in a blender to get yourself one of the most rancid concoctions that's ever been excreted onto this earth. I mean, I wouldn't drink that. I presume the only reason someone would make something so foul would be to clean their toilet or something.
Yes, sir, Mr. Frank, sir. We'll pick every last one of these fresh, juicy, yummy carrots. They do look pretty good. You don't mind if we eat a few carrots ourselves, do you, Mr. Frank? Don't even think about it, horsebrain. If either one of you takes so much as one bite of one of those carrots, then you're both fired. And remember, I've got you both on camera, so no funny business. You got it?
Got it.
Got it. All right, now if you'll excuse me, I have to go talk with other rich people about boats.
Oh great, stereotype number 1. An evil, greedy capitalist pig with no redeeming qualities that cares about literally nothing except for insulting his workers and making money. I don't know about you guys, but if my boss treated me that way, I'd go down the street and apply for a job working for Farmer Joe. Because that's how employers work. If Farmer Joe is willing to give me breaks and let me eat on the job if I get hungry, then I'd much rather work for him, even if he's not going to pay me as much.
Yeah, because that's all the CEO of a company ever does. Forget how they need to constantly watch the market and re-strategize accordingly, how they're mainly responsible for properly allocating their company's resources, which in order to do that they need to have collected countless figures of data each and every day on the supply and demand for each and every commodity on the market. Holy fuck, that's not even half of the things that a CEO does, and I'd lose my mind having to do that. Not only having to do that, but having to do it exceptionally well, with the threat of my livelihood collapsing in on itself if I don't. And then there's, of course, the economic reason why private enterprise is structured the way it is. And no, it's not because private property is inherently hierarchical, because it's not. The ability to refuse association and be entitled to the result of your own actions is nothing but the logical conclusion of free will. No, the reason that the CEO system of management is the most common is because, well, it's the most efficient. For example, the proposed alternative, the worker co-op model. This system will never work outside of small progressive coffee shops and other ridiculously small local restaurants because this model quite literally penalizes success. Because as this operation expands and the amount of workers employed increases, each worker is making a smaller and smaller amount of profit as their gains are socialized among the entire company. And also, since the resources used to produce commodities in the company are paid for by the workers themselves, that makes the profit margin even smaller. And since all the workers are running the company, this would mean that every individual worker has to work that much harder, since they also have to take up a managing role. So you work harder, and each individual involved receives less out of their performance. With the so-called top-down model of management, you have one guy or several people who do all of the resource managing, who put together all of the capital at once, which on top of being more profitable for everyone, this model of management also has a higher time preference, which in turn creates a higher rate of interest due to accelerated satisfaction. Or, to put it simply, if you had the choice between receiving $100 for a job now and $100 for the same job being received a month later, most would take the $100 now because they have a higher rate of marginal utility for present consumption. But if the amount in the future was higher, say $1,000 instead of $100 in a month, most would have a lower time preference.
I don't know about you, Glue, but I'm really glad I landed this job. My parents said I have to start paying for my own Steam account or I can't live in the bonus room anymore.
Yeah, I know how you feel, Neckbeard. I had to get this job because if I don't have any food to eat, I'll starve to death.
Wow, Marxists are so deep. I have to work or I won't have any money to live. Who knew, right?
That's almost as bad as my situation. Anyway, all's well that ends well. Good thing Frank gave us this gig, huh?
Yeah. But
But what?
oh, nothing.
Whatever.
But, I mean,
What?
oh, nothing. It's just,
Out with it already!
well, it's kinda not fair. I mean, about the labor value and all.
What are you talking about? Labor value?
Yeah, a couple weeks ago, a pink cat with a big beard told me all about how Frank steals a whole lot of our labor value for his own profits.
Oh my god, this is a total prat. For those of you who don't know, a prat, standing for previously refuted 1,000 times, is an argument which has been refuted long ago, but's just basically used as a talking point by ideologues who refuse to let go of their previously debunked ideas. And since Marxists rely on the idea that value is objective for their system to work, of course they're never going to let go of the labor theory of value. I've made several videos debunking arguments regarding the labor theory of value already, so I'm just going to let Tanner explain it.
The labor theory of value is quite easily debunked once you understand where value actually comes from. We live in a culture that perpetuates the myth that the longer and harder that you work, the more money you are entitled to. Let's use art as an example. You or I would probably not spend $10 million on a piece of paper with red scribbly lines all over it. However, if you go to a modern art show and ask an employee how much some of these quote-unquote paintings are worth, you'd be surprised. Or the fact that you might be willing to spend $100 to get a signed copy of a CD, despite the only difference between that album and another copy of the album is the fact that it has a signature on it. But the signature is worth something to you, subjectively. In the end, the value of your labor does not come down to how hard or how long you worked. It comes down to how much you believe it's worth and how much the buyer believes it's worth.
TLDW explanation. Profit is not obtained through business owners taking it as surplus value. Profit is revenue minus expense. And even if it was, it wouldn't be unethical since you aren't coerced into working.
Well, obviously Frank should get most of the money because it's his business. Frank's a businessman.
No, he's entitled to it because you are using his property in order to produce his product, and he became a producer by investing his own labor and resources. It is therefore an extension of his agency and rightfully belongs to him for the same reason that everyone's entitled to speak or think their own thoughts. The hypocrisy of Marxists arguing that workers should violently seize the means of production because producers are supposedly exploiting them by taking some of the value of their labor, while not thinking of applying this same standard to the business owners who created the means of production with their own labor and resources, will never cease to piss me off. Especially when you examine this and realize that the literal only reason that Marxists cling to class theory as strongly as they do is to try and justify their actions in the face of this glaring double standard. They are not only being a bunch of hypocritical jackasses, but they're fully aware and don't give a fuck.
And I'm gonna be a businessman too someday, you'll see.
You mean you want to be a capitalist like Frank?
Of course I do. You don't think I want to sit in the dirt all day pulling carrots for the rest of my life, do you? I'm going to have a huge field and lots of workers working for me. I'm going to make a lot of money, and then I'm going to sit around on my ass all day just like Frank.
I can't tell if the creator of this skit is purposely misrepresenting what businessmen actually do, or if he's such an idiot that he actually believes that businessmen just sit on their ass all day. Being a businessman is incredibly difficult, especially if you're just starting out. Let's say Frank's crops fail and he loses his business. Well, the two animals can just go get another job at a different farm, but Frank is just fucked. Not only that, but if Frank has a small farm, which it seems like he does considering he only has 2 employees, he's probably not pulling much in profits. Once he's done paying for upkeep, new equipment, and of course his employees' salaries, he probably will barely have enough to feed his family. But please, keep pushing the narrative that all business owners and landlords are just rich, greedy assholes.
Well, gee, Neckbeard, where are you going to get the money to buy a field of your own?
All I gotta do is work hard. Then I'll be rich. Everyone knows that, Glue. It's the American dream.
Well, I don't know if that's true, Neckbeard.
Well, you're not going to make it to the top just by working hard. You also need to know how to manage your money properly. Because if you spend it all on hookers and drugs, you're not going to have much left to invest with.
Marx Chan said that workers should have class confidence, class competence, class consciousness.
What the hell?
It's a talking carrot.
Carrots can't talk.
I can. Well, look there. A big, juicy, plump, scrumptious carrot that can talk. Greetings, workers. I'm the carrot of class consciousness, and Glue is right, you know. Capitalism is a system that relies on workers buying into a false ideology of individualistic determination so that they can be divided and conquered by the ruling class.
Wow. Everything you just said is exactly backwards. The market system is politically neutral, and therefore individuality is merely a characteristic. Marxism is an ideology which relies on a divide and conquer tactic, e.g. class theory, advocates for a literal dictatorship, and promotes a collectivist deterministic view of society. Of course, I'd ask you to define the term capitalism how you would regularly, but since you're a Marxist, I know that you're using the term to basically refer to whenever there's money. This is important to bring up, since Marxists don't take into account any of the nuances of economics, such as interest rates or supply and demand. They literally see no difference between an entrepreneurial, self-sufficient producer and a parasitic corporatist who, because of government subsidies, is less efficient, has no incentive to compete, and produces a lower quality of service.
Oh great, it's a communist carrot.
That goat is my spirit animal.
That's right. Could you tell us more about class consciousness, Mr. Food? I mean, Mr. Carrot?
We don't have time for this, Glue.
Class consciousness just means you realize that you're part of the working class and that you are being exploited by capitalists.
Capitalism perpetuates a false ideology that divides people among one another so they don't challenge the ruling class. Now let me explain to you why all rich people are born rich and all poor people are born poor, and the rich people are just doo-doo heads, and the rulers of the poor people who are just mean and hate them pay no attention to the government behind the curtain. Do you people even listen to yourselves talk? Like, I actually want to know, do you people actually take the time to process the logic behind the absolute utter shit that is coming out of your fucking mouth?
Glue, you already know that Frank is stealing your labor value by profiting from your work, so that means you already have class consciousness. I do? Oh boy!
What a bunch of moronic drivel. Frank has to do work too, you know. He has to sell the carrots and do all the, you know, the business stuff. He's a businessman. He deserves to make a profit.
He absolutely does. And as I stated before, he's probably not pulling that much in.
Ah, I see that you suffer from false consciousness, my Caprine friend.
Hey, watch who you're talking to, you lousy vegetable.
It's not an insult. Unfortunately, most workers in modern society suffer from false consciousness. It simply means that you buy into the false rhetoric and ideology of capitalism.
So accept that Marxism is right, or you just have a false consciousness. Forget the facts, forget the actual economic data, just you will be assimilated, resistance is futile. Do you people understand how absolutely cultish you sound? Even worse, you have the audacity to accuse people who aren't Marxists of using a divide-and-conquer tactic. This is just pure projection.
You fail to see the working class as one unit of which you are a part, and instead see yourself as an individual completely separated from your fellow workers.
Holy fuck! Do I even need to respond to that? Jesus Christ. That was the creepiest, most insane thing I've heard in a long time. You all just heard that straight out of the horse's, carrot's mouth. Marxists reject individuality and literally see people as a hive mind determined by their socioeconomic identity. I mean, most Marxists haven't read Marx, so they might be able to excuse it, but this one clearly has. How do you read that and not feel a shudder down your spine, let alone agree with it?
You're darn right I'm an individual. I'm a grown-ass man. My parents and I can take care of myself. I don't need a bunch of communists holding me back from success.
And this is what ultimately pisses me off about Marxists. They claim to fight for the working class, but if you have a 10-minute conversation with them, you'll find out that they have nothing but disdain for actual blue-collar working class men. Think about it. Who mostly makes up the working class in America? And I don't mean anyone who isn't a capitalist. I mean actual blue-collar working class people who get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and bust their asses in a field or a factory all day. Lower middle class, straight, white, Christian men. Most of which value individualism and independence. That goat is meant to represent actual working class people. It's just kind of interesting to me that he would decide to portray them as idiots.
Ouch! Glue, did you just nibble me? Well, maybe just a little. Could you tell us more about false consciousness? False consciousness is what holds back workers from seizing the means of production. As long as you buy into the false promises of capitalism, capitalists will be able to continue exploiting you.
And these people actually wonder why everyone absolutely despises them.
We are the Borg. Lower your shields and surrender your ships. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Your culture will adapt to service us. Resistance is futile.
Wow, you sure are food, Mr. Carrot. I mean smart. You sure are smart. It's not a matter of intelligence, Glue, just a matter of opening your eyes to the true nature of capitalism. Neckybeard, you said you believe Frank earns his profits. Do you think he works 10 times harder than you?
I don't know. It's pretty hard work yanking all these carrots out of the ground. I doubt he works 10 times harder than me.
Do you think he's 10 times smarter than you?
Nobody's 10 times smarter than me.
Then why is he going to make 10 times more money than he pays you when he sells all these carrots?
I don't know, because he's the boss. Because that's how business works. And one day I'm gonna make my very own business and make lots of money, just like Frank.
It's possible you might, Neckybeard, but the odds are stacked tremendously against you. The truth is, most workers will never escape from their class. The chances of a worker becoming a wealthy capitalist like Frank are astronomically low. Is that slim chance that you might become rich yourself one day really a good justification for 1% of the capitalists in the entire world siphoning up well over half of all human wealth?
God damn it, I'm so fucking sick of hearing that. Since you don't have an understanding of basic economics, let me explain this to you. Capitalism is a very extraordinary economic system because of its unique ability to generate wealth out of nothing. Just because rich people are making more and more and more and more and more money doesn't mean that the average person is making less money. Quite the contrary, actually. The more money that rich people have, the more money they have to invest, the more money they have to spend on expensive products, which then stimulates the economy, the more money they have to pay their workers. That was about the most basic way I could explain it, but I do plan on making a video about this in the future, so be on the lookout for that.
Gee willikers, Neckybeard, that doesn't sound fair to me.
Well, life isn't fair. If you want something in this world, you gotta fight for it.
Unfortunately, that's the problem, Neckybeard. Capitalists have turned workers like you into commodities. You have become objectified. You're forced to sell your labor on the free market like so many carrots, and the more workers compete with each other and struggle and fight among yourselves, the harder you'll have to work, and the lower your wages will be.
Actually, as the market becomes more competitive, interest rates increase, and as interest rates increase, investment increases. As investment increases, the quality of life improves due to innovation, and innovation leads to both less labor being required to produce commodities, and the price of production due to material resources greatly decreasing. Less labor itself implies that the price of production would decrease, but whatever. This suggests that competition is actually what leads society towards self-reliance, since it constantly pushes the economy towards self-reliance away from wage labor you hate so much. This also means that while you have less money, the money you trade with is more valuable and regular commodities are less expensive. Also, again, not all markets are free markets. The one we have now isn't, as it's been heavily manipulated by government regulations which make competition scarce by making production so costly, and because of this, interest rates are now artificially lowered, which means that our quality of life is necessarily stagnating compared to the rate it could be advancing at. Your long-term solution, a centrally planned economy, cannot and would not ever be a good alternative. There is, of course, the economic calculation problem, because centrally planned economies don't produce anything and subsist off of stolen resources produced by private individuals. There are no supply and demand curves for distribution. And therefore, it is necessarily impossible for the planners to properly allocate their resources, which results in shortage. And I've already explained the issues with the worker co-op model, so it would seem that once again this analysis is entirely backwards compared to reality. But that's to be expected considering your previous arguments, or should I say talking points, since you don't really make a case for your position, you just spout your position as if it's a fact.
Well, that does sort of make sense. I would definitely screw over glue here if it meant I could make more money for myself.
I think Mr. Carrot is delicious, Neckybeard. I mean, right. I think he's right, Neckybeard. I don't want to have to fight with you over wages when we could be working together to share the full value of all these big, ripe, delectable, sweet, tantalizing glue. Carrot!
Ow. Fuck. Oh god, I'm sorry. The cringe is giving me a headache. Also, imagine your ideology being so stupid that the only way you can explain it is through hand puppets, like you're trying to explain it to toddlers.
I mean, I think things would be a lot better if we earned the full value of our labor. Imagine how much Overwatch DLC you could buy if Frank paid you what your labor was really worth.
I could always use more Overwatch DLC.
And I could always use more big, plump, down boy, crunchy,
Easy, fella.
tasty, hey, back off, would ya? Heavenly, mouth-watering. Well, I think my work here is done. Good luck to both of you. Workers of the world unite and all that. I gotta run. Wait, come back. Let me smell you some more.
Ooh, that was a close one. For a minute there, I was starting to feel open-minded. Ugh. Well, back to work. Carrot.
Have you ever noticed that a lot of leftists confuse being open-minded with agreeing with every stupid thing they say? But anyways, I'd just like to thank Esso for doing this collaboration with me, and if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go gouge out my eyes and try to repent for what I just watched.
What a wonderful world. They're really saying I love you. What a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by.